Everybody. I am just tuning in order to give you some very, in my experience, very unique breathing tips. This is like a mental health banner. There's this beautiful tool that we have that I think a lot of us don't use that much until things get really tough, if we know how to use it. And I'm just done not speaking this on a larger scale. So here it is. So your breath is the most essential tool that you have. And generally speaking, I find that we're in the middle of a bit of an epidemic of hypoxia. Unless you work out enough to really suck wind, most of us go throughout the day without a reasonable, deep, full breath. And we don't need crazy deep breaths, but we need breaths that are therapeutic. And there are three different sort of angles that I want to talk about breathing from, and this will be nice and quick. But one is the kinetics of breathing, which is very important because of the neurology behind it and what that does to our physiology. And then, it's movement, physiology, and then also a little bit of metaphysics, if you guys can hang with me for a quick one. So, what I want to demonstrate is how a lot of us breathe. There's a lot of belly breathing, even when we're like not in yoga class doing stuff. But the most common thing that I find is when people take a big breath, they do it like this. And there's actually little to no rib excursion there. So our rib cages don't actually move much. So there's no expansion there. So this is what a full rib breath looks like. And from the side, looks very different. So I'm breathing in the center of me. So that does a whole bunch of things. But most importantly, maybe, in my opinion, what it does is it allows us to move your rib joints, your spinal costal joints. And those have an extraordinary amount of proprioceptive feedback into the prefrontal cortex, like extraordinary. It's pretty much some of the greatest proprioception south of the upper neck. And so really helpful for de-stressing, for clarity, for problem solving. And most of us don't breathe into our back body at all. There's a lot of front body breathing, a lot of belly breathing, and a lot of, especially when we're working out. So really play with this. I'm going to put a part 2 and give you some fun tricks on how you can actually train it. But really, it's fairly simple. Breathing in the center of you. You can actually breathe into your kidneys and into your adrenals, which creates all kind of space in those areas of the spine, which is the opposite of what this does. It's really a lot of compression here. So the parts of your spinal cord that innervate your adrenal glands and like a whole bunch of other things that help you handle stress, like don't have as much room as they would if you breathed into them and elongated and created space there. So this is neurologically very, very important. It also helps you take a much fuller breath. So there's a lot more vital capacity. So when I measure the size of the air they can take in, it is infinitely larger when you center breathe, if I was going to name it something. Physiologically, the oxygenation that we get from longer, slower, fuller, more centered breathing is remarkable. So when you look at the autonomic nervous system, the difference between your fight and flight and your rest and digest, I'm going to give you another trick with this too, but taking an even full breath without even manipulating like which side we're going to be heavier on, it's amazing how quickly you can come out of anxiety and into maybe not digesting unless you're eating, but like resting and like safety. You can confer a bunch of safety into your system and you can help regulate. And it happens so quickly. Like you can do this, when you get good at this, you can do this with a single breath, let alone 3. But you can start with like 5 minutes of just full breathing. And now when you look at the metaphysics of it, this is where some of you may or may not be throwing up in your mouth, but hold with me. So what ends up happening a lot, I think you guys know this, but when we tend towards anxiety or we're future projected, so we're looking into the future, we're planning, we're problem solving problems that we're imagining might happen because we're still. So your aura is your electromagnetic field, right? I know it sounds a little frou-frou, but we can take photographs of it. It is a very clear, obvious entity of electromagnetic energy. It's your field. And what I've found professionally is that when people center breathe, when they learn how to breathe in their middle, they come back to this place of power. And when we're in anxiety, our aura tends to actually extend forward pretty remarkably. And it can leave you a little less robust, a little vulnerable in the back. And when we're tending towards depressive thoughts, or we're really struggling with something that happened that we can't change, obviously, then the aura can tend to lean back a little bit, which tends to really sag. Everything sort of like physiologically suffers in that other direction. So we're either keyed up or we're just... So when you center breathe, it brings your power back, because the only place we can actually control anything or like act in alignment is now, obviously, says the Buddhists for thousands of years. So when you center breathe, what I've found over the years is that people's auras center. So they bring all their energy back into their power place, and from there they can move forward and do like all kinds of cool stuff. So it's been very interesting for me as a clinician, as a kinetics nerd, as an energy worker, to sort of see how all of these things really combine and actually coexist. So it's a huge de-stressor, this type of breathing. And if you want to add another, I'll go through this in greater detail in part 2 of this video. If you want to double the length of your exhale relative to your inhale, that will add even more gas to bringing that needle back from fight or flight, like anxiety, panic attack kind of, back to, okay, I'm actually safe. So we would take that breath and we would, that's like a 3-second breath. Simple. 2 to 1. I'll go in 2 and out 4. It's like hard for me to take a short breath, but we do it all day. So if you're struggling at all, there's some crazy energy happening. There's political stuff just going nuts out there. A lot of people are struggling right now, but even if you're not struggling, having this in your back pocket is super valuable. So learning how to like stand in a mirror and work on moving your hands apart without using your shoulders. And keeping your belly active and breathing without blowing this out or extending. So structurally, it makes so much sense, and it enables you to carry something heavy because you can keep your core active, because you know how to breathe in your rib cage. So it's such a valuable tool, and I think we need all the mental health tools we can get right now. So structurally, physiologically, and energetically, I'm a big fan of this method of breathing. And I'll come back and give you a couple of tips on how you can train this shortly. So in the meantime, please share this with anyone that you feel could use a deeper breath. Thanks so much.